Hi there guys, this is episode number 4 of our live stream. Today I want to show you a couple of things. Well, there's Hendrix today, which is a big thing for me, and there's a lot we can talk about Jimi Hendrix gear, the music, the playing style, and my personal Hendrix Amp1 board. The other thing is I will do the opposite of what I've done in the last episode. I will have real drive pedals like this one here and use that with the clean channel. So you have get an impression of how to combine, you know, like the full tone of the Friedmann BE OD with a clean channel and not using a booster. So there's many different ways how to get a great sound with the Amp1. And I wanted to show you this one. And of course, we have something that you can win. Oh! This is my live DVD, Blue Plays Hendrix, which was recorded in Hamburg Markthalle, which was a great concert together with Randy Hansen and Markus Demel from Arrowhead, a German dude who is really good on guitar. He was also one of the Strat King finalists when we did the Fender Award. And another thing that we will have to win is a German instruction how to play Hendrix guitar. And yeah, it's a DVD. I'm teaching the styles of Jimi Hendrix, not doing the copies one by one, but you know pretty much which songs I was aiming at. So, but let me start with the Amp1 and the pedals. Therefore, I will switch for the simple setup, getting this Amp1 here and getting this guitar out of the way. And for a change, the beautiful red Gibson ES335. Talking about red guitars, this is our ongoing thing. The red special is still not here. Now my friend is ordering 4 guitars because he couldn't buy just one. He's got a deal. He's a dealer. He's got a shop. So and he asked for the 4 guitars. Well, maybe they do still make them. And anyway, the red special is not here. In the meantime, I heard that Brian May himself had a problem. I don't know, he's sick or fell or something. So maybe I got a friend who has a friend that knows him. And if the guitar doesn't show up one day, we give him a call direct. I mean, this will be the running gag of this show. If we don't get a red special by next or the second episode of this one, we call him direct. There's all great guys. I'm sure they will have a good laugh on the whole thing. Okay, back to my 335. I wanted to show you how I can use that guitar and pedals which are doing the sound for you. Let's start with the clean tone of the Amp1. So this is everything on full. Yeah, super nice clean tone. I have this hot tone, what is it called? The blues, one of the tiniest pedals ever. And it's like a... Oh, we should use a Jimi Hendrix song in this episode. What about Red House? and back to the clean. Yeah, I think it says blues, it sounds blues, and that's a brilliant pedal for this combination. And it does actually everything you need. It just gives you a little bit of extra breakup, and it gives you this blues warmth that you want. And you can dial in, you know, the volume. So this makes it an extra channel next to that. I have, for you blues guys and pentatonic players, I have a little guitar teacher lesson here. Yeah, I was writing some articles about Jimi Hendrix music in a magazine here. It's called Guitar from Germany. And one of the topics, it's a funny one. You can tell if some guys know what a major third is. You know, sorry to interrupt with the gear here. If you have like a blues, like in A, like this one here, it's all major 7 chords, dominant chords, okay? And so, and the usual guy plays a pentatonic. And what kind of pentatonic do we play if we are in the key of A? We play the A pentatonic. And you know what happens? Already the first note sounds shit. And I tell you why. Because the first chord is an A7, major 7, which means we have that note. And if we go for the standard pentatonic, which is a minor pentatonic, we play. So the first note should be this one, not this one. So here comes my lesson for you guys. Listen to the chords, check which notes are in the chords and use them in the pentatonic. So if you want to play a dominant 7 blues the right way, you have to switch the pentatonic scales. You start with a major pentatonic. And then on the second chord, you go for the minor pentatonic. Why? Because this D7 chord has the C in it. Okay? And then when you go back for the A, there's the C sharp again. Because this is like a E7 chord, and we have to change the scale again, so we have the right notes for this chord. E, G sharp. Cool, right? And then we go back for the D7 chord. And of course, we could go crazy and have stuff like we're playing, you know, some of those Mixolydian scales on each chord and stuff. So we go jazz and beyond. All I'm saying now, keep it simple and make sure you play the right third. Is it on the first chord? It's the G sharp, the C sharp, which comes from the major chord, major 7 chord, and on the second one, it's the minor third from A, the D7 chord. This is already very good. And by the way, even Angus Young from AC/DC knows that secret. I can tell. When you listen to his solos, you can tell he understood that concept. Okay, this was the teaching about some harmony stuff. Now back for the sound. You could hear the clean tone and a nice pedal, which I can prove is just doing the overdrive. Maybe you can hear that's a bit boring at lower volume. The more I crank it, the more it comes alive. The reason for that is my clean channel is already at the point where it's just starting to break up. And when I get this saturation or this overdrive into the other one, and if they are clipping on the same level, I get the sweetest tone ever. That's the magic of combining that stuff. And that's why I like my clean channel never super hi-fi clean. Because then I will lose this kind of natural interaction, me as the vintage guy, for blues. Let's do another example. I swap for another pedal. And here's a pedal that I've done with X-Vibe. It's called the Golden Brownie. And that's a pedal that is supposed to sound British rock, of course my territory. Let's see what's going on. Okay, plug on here. So this is how it sounds like, and maybe you could hear that I was searching for the point where the breakup is not too muddy. There's always that mud, and I like to be on the edge of the mud, because then I can still control it with my pick. Yeah, I like that. If I crank it all the way, it's kind of... I back it up a little bit and then... and I have more definition. Okay, I can compare it to like my built-in channel and then... Sorry guys, that's as good as it gets, I guess. For me, you know, the amp channel has still a bit more aliveness. Now let's check my favorite gain pedal, which is the Friedmann BE OD, which is a super high gain pedal. And yeah, big respect to Dave Friedman for this design. There's so many dynamic clipping stages inside. I believe it's one of the best high gain overdrive pedals out there. My personal preference. Okay, plug it in. So let's. So what we've got here is we have a tight control. You know what? Let me grab a decent guitar for that kind of thing. Yeah. So we do have a little noise, but hey, you know, that's high gain. You can see that's a lot of fun to play that pedal. Let's check out the goodies of this one. I think the most impressive thing is the sound by itself, and second, the tight control. You know, I was telling you about the mud, and here we go. This is the vintage low end of a Marshall amp. It's a little fluffy, which I like for my Strat and the vintage tones, but when I want a tight sound, it kind of thins the low end. That's a little bit too dry to my taste. So about here I like it. Okay, yeah, one of the nicest overdrive sounds. Hey, and I go back for bypass and I'm on my clean channel. So what I've done with this pedal is I made sure that I don't have so much output volume, that my clean channel is not compressing too much, because I got so much gain, and the gain already means kind of a compression in the overdrive pedal itself, that my amp should simply be not saturated. Therefore, I have a low setting on the gain here. Well, in case you want to have a setup like that and you need a second master volume, you can go to one of the internal channels of the AMP1 and have this set with the custom control to whatever volume you like. Or this thing is called a minus booster. And the minus booster is a super simple device. It's simply a passive potentiometer, a passive volume control that kind of reduces the volume from input to output. So what I'm doing here is I insert it in the effects loop, and now I have a second master volume, and I got my same beautiful overdrive tone from this pedal here. At a rhythm level and at a lead level. And I can dial in the difference. Yeah, in case you have some effects, simply put it behind the effects and use it as your second master volume. Works perfect. Or you can even build it yourself. I mean, this is such a simple device. If you have a housing, if you have a potentiometer, that's all you need. There's no magic combined with this, especially when you use it in the effects loop. This pedal can also be used in front of the amp, and then there is an internal treble bleed capacitor, like I explained in the last episode, or no, in episode number 2, on top on this, so you can change the sound in case you want to use this instead of your volume control on the guitar. So you can see there's many options, but for a simple second master volume, no treble bleed, just a volume pot in the effects loop, and that's it. Yeah. So this is basically the recipe. Now, I believe this pedal and the Mercury Edition is kind of a super versatile setup when it comes to classic tones and kind of modern tones like the Iridium Edition. But you will notice when I use this pedal compared to this amp, that there's a tiny bit more quality, just like what we heard when I was playing the classic channel compared to this one with the Iridium. So the amp by itself is more dynamic than pedals. This is, yeah, that's my bet, and this is what we paid so much attention to be the amp as the real tube dynamic amp. Like, that's, yeah, and this pedal is killer. It's the best. And nobody will hear it, and you will have so much fun, so you probably don't notice anyhow. But trust me, there is this tiny little difference if I go and have this pedal compared to one of my channels here. Yeah, we pay so much attention to detail to get this dynamics as real as possible. Okay, that's my comments on the pedals here. Are you ready for some questions? Maybe I do some questions from last episode and see what questions are left over from last time, and then I continue with the Hendrix story. So, wow, Cody already a week ago asked, "Hey Thomas, I know you have a lot of going with the AMP-X, and I was interested, but what you said on AMP1 probably being enough for most people, do you ever see making more AMP1 style amps based around different sounds? For example, one that does the AC matchless bad cat thing?" Put it that way, that's a great idea if I go in a simple way. You know, the AMP1 as it is already a complex yet simple product. It is so small, so lightweight, but as we can see now with all these episodes, it is capable of doing so many things. And the AMP-X will even take that to the next level. And with all the experience we will gain on the AMP-X project, I have my own tool to design amps on the AMP-X. And then, of course, I can use that knowledge and reduce it to a new product one day. And it could be an AMP1 or it could be, you know, other simpler products. But for me, it's the next step is the X, just so I have my developing tool for sounds for the rest of my life. It's our flagship and it offers everything, knowing that not everybody needs everything, and some people, you know, think, and that's totally true, less is more. My first record was called The Beauty of Simplicity, so I found after some complex bits and pieces here and there, you know what, less can be more. And so I have a heart that beats also for stuff that is kind of straightforward and easy. And yeah, this could be on the list, but hey, not the next 2 years. There's lots of things we have in the pipeline. Okay, next question. Those pedals sound great over the clean channel, but my question is, as AMP1 user, okay, I think that it's possible to get these sounds in the other channels, so makes sense to use this pedal anyway. Well, the channels, even with the options to modify the character with our custom controls, already give a very big range of tones. But still, there are some sounds like this beautiful blues thing for me, which sounds killer, and it's kind of in between what I can do with the AMP1 as it is. And this thing, it's cool. So, do I need it? I don't need it, but I want it. So, you know, this little fellow, I can put it on the board if I want to. And so it's a personal decision. And of course, it's, you know, we all go through phases. We have the blues phase maybe for half a year or a year, and then we swap and discover, you know, the 80s hair metal again or whatever. And then, you know, just put one of those, throw it on your pedal board or in front of the amp and happy. And then maybe one day you return to having the AMP1 and nothing. Why not? Because you can work with this thing. Once you understand it, you will get more than you first see at first glance. So this is pretty versatile. So do we need it? It's never needed, but if you want to have fun with it, go ahead, put it on your pedal board. Nothing wrong with that. So Clive Jevons, okay. Was the loop set to serial when you used the minus boost pedal? It was used to serial, yes. Yeah, it would even work on parallel, but not as dramatic. So serial is the way to go. A few minutes ago, Guitar Guru question. When in preset mode, okay, preset mode, are the EQ and volume settings shared across all your presets, or can you customize each EQ volume for each preset independently. No, you cannot. The internal tone control, the 3-band EQ, and those custom controls here are not programmable. They are preset, they are analog, they are as they are. And I used all these knobs to get the flexibility, but yeah, if it's not programmable. So this is set and forget on the side, and this is finding once your personal setting and live with it. That's the beauty of a concept, but it also has limitations, as we know. If you want to go all the way, the X is the thing for you. But hey, do we need it? Same thing like with the pedal? Maybe, maybe not. Well, let's see. This was the Guitar Guru. Next, Martin. Hello to the Netherlands, Martin again. Here's a story about Martin. Martin, I know him for, I don't know, decades. Martin Chernoky is somebody I have seen on every trade show since his father was also in the business selling, I think, mallets, you know, for the, some instruments for vibraphone player or whatever that thing called. And yeah, and he bought a white Strat because of me, and he bought, of course, an AMP1 and some Hughes & Kettner products because of me, and he plays really well. He works in a totally different industry, and he's a very nice guy. Sometimes we talk about whatever business, private things, and okay, this is my... Check him out if you see him doing something. It's worth listening to him. He's got a great sense of melody and picked some stuff up for me and maybe took it to another level, his level, which is great. Okay, hi Thomas, can you please explain when you use specific settings of the 5-way switch? When you play for instrumentals, you continuously switch between the positions. What's the idea behind? Okay, now I have to go back to the Strat then. Because that's a 5-way, no, that's a 3-way switch. He's talking about a 5-way switch. I use a 5-way switch then. Which guitar do we take? We have too many. Oh, let's take the real deal for fun. I hope it's in tune. Okay, let's do my thing. Forget the Friedmann pedal. That's great, but not needed for this, for my thing. Plug in. Vintage plus boost, that's my thing. You can see me doing that all the time, and actually it is a combination of using the 5-way switch and the volume control, and I didn't invent that. My hero Ritchie Blackmore did and then he went. You know, he has the neck pickup when he goes in the higher register, and he goes to the bridge pickup when he plays the lower register. Of course, that makes total sense, because when I play the neck pickup on the lower register, I get muddy. Bridge pickup. I get all the definition. But now, with knowing all these tones, I found It's so nice to have a note that can be very soft and bright like this one. Maybe just use my fingers, or then use the pick and then get another color. Could be an answer and go back. 2 sounds, 2 people, conversation. Endless tones I get out of switching from different pickups to having different volume settings. That's my thing. Keeps my tone interesting, keeps me from playing too many notes because I got something to do here. Okay, next question. Victor, the guitar nerd. How do you hook up the BluBox? Is it in the record out? Oh no. Or in the speaker out? Yes. Do you need a speaker hooked up as well when plugging it to the speaker out? No. Okay. As you can see, this cable here is going directly, I hope the camera can see it, from the speaker out into the BluBox input. And there's nothing else connected. There is no speaker here and there is no speaker here. So this is actually silent recording. I'm using no speaker, just a speaker emulator. That's it. And if I would use a speaker, which we don't have here, next time maybe I can show you, I would use this socket here, the speaker level through, because on that through level, the signal from the amp goes through the BluBox and is hardwired from in to through. So there is nothing. There is just in out directly connected, you know. But when a speaker is used, the speaker has a certain impedance. Impedance is the resistance of the speaker, and this is not just a line in the frequency range. It changes for the bass, for the treble, for the mids, and that's a curve. And this frequency impedance curve, or this impedance curve, actually will interact with the output stage. We have our nanotube Class D analog special output stage design that works just like a tube amp. And this tube amp style output stage reacts to the speaker. So what I've done in the BluBox is, knowing this is a phenomena and it changes the tone. So I have a compensation now when I'm not using a speaker, that the BluBox sounds a little bit like if there would be a speaker connected. But if you have a speaker and connect it to the through, it's a real speaker and it's even better. So what you hear now is killer, but with the speaker connected, it's even better. 2%, maybe you don't hear it. I do hear it, but this is how it is. It's physics. It's a speaker doesn't have like a flat resistance with every frequency from low to high. It changes through the frequency spectrum. And this is current feedback design of the power amp, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And so what you should do is use the speaker out into the speaker level input of the BluBox. There is the switch that gives you the level, and I use it always in the middle because that's kind of as loud as I go. You can switch it like too low if you crank it and super loud. Nobody needs that. Only my friend Uli John Roth, who is the loudest guitar player on the planet, or that I know. And you can switch to high sensitivity if you play very low on the master volume of the amp. So that's the switch. But use the speaker out into the BluBox speaker level in. Use the microphone balanced level XLR out for the tone. And if you have a speaker, connect it here. Here is the super special trick for those that put this on the pedal board and still want to use an output here. I have a trick. Sometimes when I have no room on the pedal board, I plug in the speaker here and use a blind plug here. Don't make a shortcut. This will not work. Have just an open thing just to use the switch on that. That's an internal thing you can do because it works. Keep it simple. Okay, next question. What? Infraction of symmetry. Oh, this sounds complex. Hallo Thomas. Oh, in German. I read German and maybe translate. Ich habe ein AMP1, mit dem ich fast alles machen kann. Wann kommt die passende Gitarre dazu? Gibt es Pläne in der Richtung? Also eine Gitarre mit Humbucker, Single Coils, Kombi, sowohl Twang, Tele mit einem, okay, vielleicht ein Teilthema für einen Livestream. Oh ja, Schwierigkeiten bei einer Gitarre, die alles können soll, beziehungsweise Kompromisse müsste man eigentlich, Grüße und so weiter. Okay, this gentleman asks if we would do a guitar that can do it all. I think that's a nice project, but maybe I'm not the right kind of guy for that. Let's put it that way. I'm a Strat cat for myself. I know other guitars, like, you know, metal guitars or my Gibsons and some other guitars. So that's something I'm familiar with. And of course, I can think of a hybrid between a Strat and a Les Paul or a Strat and a Tele. And I tried a couple of these designs myself, wiring pickups like in the Tele with the outer pickups, or having a humbucker or two humbuckers. And I found that I'm the purist and still like to have the original designs as they are. That's something personal. I know there are great guitars out there, PRS for instance, and Surguitars and blah blah blah. So many guys try to come to a level where they mix different styles, and of course it would be a challenge to optimize it. Maybe I have a go on one thing one day, but I'm not the kind of guy that my heart is more beating in the direction of amps and getting my kind of classic guitars, my beloved Strat and my famous Les Paul tones in an affordable and usable format. I think that's my cup of tea. I would love to get a 57 Les Paul one day because I know they are killer, but I don't have the money for it. And if I had the money, the guy that has the guitar will probably not sell it to me because it's his guitar and it's a very good guitar. So my job or my passion now is driving me towards to get that guitar so I can own it, but it's not that super expensive original 1957 Les Paul. So that's kind of what I will do on guitars. And I'm working on that project already for 10 years, I think, but this will be another episode. Okay, but the guitar that does it all, I'm not the right kind of guy, I have to admit. There are some better people for that. So, room for more. Marcel has a question. Hi Thomas, could you explain a little in detail how the current feedback of guitar amp works and how different cabinets influence the tone of BluBox in between amp and cab? Yeah. If you look at the graph, at the picture that you can draw from the impedance curve through the frequency spectrum, you can see kind of a dip in the middle. You can see the bass boom, which is around 100 Hertz usually, and then you can see some highs. We don't have one here. You find it in the internet. The thing is, the current feedback is kind of damped by the resistance, and that's different from the value of the resistance in the frequency spectrum. So, you know what? Read some fucking books about this. All I'm saying is there's a very obvious thing. It kind of makes the sound less mid-rangey because it kind of scoops a bit the mids. But on the other hand, it makes the whole system, which means amp and speaker, more alive. So what you need to do is, since you have this kind of frequency change, you have to compensate that in a way. Otherwise, well, it doesn't sound natural to your ears. And this is different from the speaker itself and of the kind of housing you're using. If you have open back, closed back, but mainly it's the speaker itself. That's about current feedback design. And one thing about current feedback design, you can design your amp in a way that it's more or less sensitive towards current feedback. So how much influence of the speaker you want to have on your tone. And here's a big difference compared to like modeling guys. They have just Class D amps. They don't have that kind of interaction, and they do everything in their models, believing that's the real deal. I found that's not the real deal. I like that current feedback design in the power amp stage, have the real natural interaction and compensate the frequency stuff, and then it feels right. That's my opinion. Okay, Dave, I love your products and the current Academy of Tone Livestream, thanks. Looking for a good clean country tone using AMP1 Mercury Edition, which is this one. Also some tips on using a Line 6HX stomp for pedals with the AMP1. Okay, well, what is the country tone? That's a good question. I would say we go for something clean here, and we need a little bit of, yeah, I use a little bit of boost. This brings me back to the question I read maybe from another episode, how I do the double stops in tune with a free floating bridge. You know, when you do the standard thing like bending a string here, what happens to the other strings? They go low. See? Ah, fuck. Okay. If I have a double stop, I have to compensate it, which means my second finger also has to go a bit higher than usually with a guitar that has no floating tremolo. Okay, that is just a... I learned a lot of this from Mr. Jerry Donahue. We used to be on a tour, or we did a tour in 2006 or something, and he is the Taily Bender mastering, especially. Stuff like that. Okay, back to the question, country tone. Well, see, this is middle. There's nothing special here. I'm still on my rock cabinet, which is the Marshall Stack 1970, the one that I always use. Maybe I would swap for another speaker. What about the 1x12 here? It's a bit brighter. Or the silver. So mind, I'm using my bridge pickup here. This is, you know, a lot of twang, a lot of treble. If we go back for the Stack 70, you can see that the whole high end is kind of way smoother. It's like vintage Marshall-y. And here we have the in-your-face Fender-esque. There's another one, the 2x12. This is like a Fender Silverface Princeton, and for that kind of amp you need more mids. This one is the Tweed 112, which is my, what is it? Tweed Deluxe, yeah. What I'm saying here is try to get the real cabinet for that kind of style. I'm not a country player either. I just try to fake it. And then adjust the tone so you have a little bit of the nice breakup in between clean and overdrive. And then find the right mid-range and bite and you have the country is about their own chuck. It's not the metal chuck, it's the country chuck. Yeah, okay. I go back for my rock setting. Instantly it sounds boring. Ooh. Okay. For country, but not for rock. Okay. Next question, Matthew. Hi Thomas, I use BluBox between cab and valve amp. Okay, he's got another amp. For recording and swear, the BluBox takes some of the character of the cab I'm using. Am I imagining this phenomenon? No. Trust me. If this socket is hardwired to this socket, it is not the BluBox. The signal for the BluBox itself is a simple resistor with, I don't know, 10K or what high, compared to 8 ohms or 16. It's the factor this is not giving you the sound change. If you have a change in tone, it is that you use more speaker cables. So if you have a speaker cable in between the amp and the BluBox and a speaker cable from the BluBox to the amp, it's probably longer than just the amp to your cabinet. And this is where the sound change might come from. It's not the BluBox. The BluBox is totally neutral. And of course we can go esoteric, and maybe the metal inside the jacks has some effects. Talk to Eric Johnson about that. I don't believe that. I couldn't hear any difference there, but I do hear a difference in different speaker cables, as we have our own cables. Oops, these. And why did we do Blue Guitar? What's the vintage premium speaker cables? Hey guys, there are so many speaker cables on the market, but I found a speaker cable also has its own character. It's maybe a super subtle difference, but it's there. And I was missing a cable that sounded like a cable that I wanted, and I couldn't buy it. I don't know any speaker cable that sounds like this one or this one. And you know where I got it from? It's a secret weapon of the Americans. If you go to a hotel room and you have this little lamp on the side of your bed, there is a cheesy cable that goes to the power outlet for your 110 volts. And the cheesier the cable, the better the tone. Fuck! Somebody told me, and maybe in some hotel in the States, the cable is missing, the lamp is out. But I got a cable downstairs and this was my reference. And then I met a friend here in Germany, Udo Pipper, who is restoring old vintage amps, and he is Mr. Fender and Marshall, and he goes into detail. And you know what? I make blind tests. That's all that matters. I don't know if the copper or whatever makes the difference. That's all bullshit. I don't even want to know. If I can hear it, there is something. And if I like it, I want it. And I have a speaker cable that I have even tested with other friends in blindfold tests. And everybody goes, yeah, you're right. I can hear it. It sounds in a certain way brilliant. And these cables, they sound in that way. If you want another sound, there's some brilliant cables from other manufacturers. I have a blue one from Klotz Cables, Matthias Jaap signature cable. That's my personal preferred speaker cable for the harder tones, for metal guys. And it's like more in your face. Our speaker cables, they are not as much aggressive, but they're still present and open. But I'm talking about the last 3%. Okay, what we are offering here is speaker cable that have a certain sound that I like. You find your own. That's just an offer that makes me happy, and maybe you too. If not, fair enough. Okay, back to the question here. You do hear speaker cables. I know I have some hardliners, technicians that will go, you will never hear the difference and it's all bullshit, esoteric, blah, blah, blah. I invite you to a blindfold test, and I have a whole bag where I had 10 different speaker cables, all on the same length, 5 meters, with all the same plugs, and I could simply switch between 5 different cables. And not only myself, also some other friends of mine could hear a difference. Well, if you don't hear it, doesn't matter, all good. I do hear it, it bothers me, so I go all the way. Sorry, that's my thing. Okay, next question. Francis Horowitz. Okay, currently running 2 Blue Guitar AMP1s as a wet-dry rig. Okay, Wet dry wick is one channel or one amp does the dry sound, and the other one makes the effects only. Hoping the MX has wet dry wet capabilities. As mentioned, any chance of running 2 amps at a time with the X and powering 3 caps? Guess what? I thought of everything. And these options, I made a, I was thinking of mono with all the effects included. Recording outs in stereo, recording outs in mono. Then I have a wet dry. Okay, split that, have an output for that. Then how to get wet, dry, wet, and what is the rest? I think my microphone needs a bit tweaking. I got it. Huh? Somebody help me if the sound is shit. I hope it's better. Okay, it's moving. So wet, dry, wet. Stereo with all the effects. Man, I thought of everything, and one day the whole thing is working, and I have to check all the options. This is why it's taking so long, because this thing is so complex, not only from the options, but also from everything that needs to be tested. It's another dimension. It's not by 2, it's by 4 with everything. Okay, but anyway, we thought of all that. There are more questions on the AMP-X. You know what? I think we should make another episode dedicated on the questions to AMP-X. Maybe the next one, or next week, or in 2 weeks. So we can collect questions from you guys, and then I can talk about where we are, what's in your heads, what's in our heads. Otherwise, I'm getting a bit distracted from what I had in mind for today, because good old Jimi Hendrix needs some attention as well. So here's my deal. Please send us more questions concerning AMP-X, and we kind of collect them, and then we make an episode about AMP-X. So what is the next question here? Christian, what does a presence control do? Why didn't you include one on the AMP1, and how can we achieve the same effect with the available controls? And thank you so much. I love the Mercury Edition. A presence control. If you have a classic tube amp, you find bass, middle, treble, and presence. The presence works in the power amp stage, and the 3 other bands, they work before the power amp stage. And on the vintage amps, these 3 tone controls kind of define the frequencies that go into the phase splitter stage, where some nice overdrive is happening. So it's kind of a pre-EQ for the saturation, and the presence being in the output stage is kind of an overall filter effect that is, it depends on the way it's designed. You know, some start about 1K and then go all the way up high with, you know, with a silver shimmery high end. Others have a broader bandwidth. Some have a, you know, more smaller bandwidth with different high ends. So this effect I already put into our design, but we are not able to dial it in with a separate control for a very simple reason. There is no room for any more knobs, because AMP1 is fully loaded with knobs. There is no room. And I think there's even no need, because we tried to find settings with our own designed 3-band tone control that does a different job from the standard stuff. That this treble control is a treble presence in one control. So that's the way we designed AMP1. On the X, we have a separate control. So of course, you heard about a presence control and you think, I need a presence control I can't live without a presence control. Hey, how many guys play the AMP1, including myself? Do I need a presence control? No. Why? Because the presence is set to the right value for my speaker and my application. If you have a very special speaker that has a lot of frequencies that you can't tame with this treble control and the rest of the EQ, you might wish you had a presence control as an extra parameter. But in our Blue guitar world, with our speakers and the classic speakers that I know, it's not needed by design. Okay, the next guy is Shlomi. Can you make 1x12 cabinet compression using AMP1 Iridium Edition with a nano cap, fat cap and Mesa comparison? Mini rectifier. Okay, this is a nice question about cabinets. I've done a few videos on our cabinets. I've done one with a drummer. You can see on YouTube where I have a live drummer and to show you my 4x12 cabinet versus the nano cap versus the fat cap. So you can hear the difference in tone and that even the small nano cap works with a real drummer. So that's the thing there. To make this kind of comparison, I mean, with this special Mesa Boogie Mini rectifier, I know the amp and I know our cabinet, it sounds good. That's a nice combination. Yeah, okay, maybe I do it one day. I keep that in mind when we do cabinets. Maybe if I have access to the Mesa Mini rectifier, I just throw it on the table so you can hear how it sounds with AMP1 and then compare it to other amps. And if I get a Mesa Mini rectifier, I will use that as another amp, but this might take time. Doran West, can you demonstrate if there is a difference between 100 watt and 50 watt mode and high-low gain mode, please? Yes, I can. Let's try. So this is... I will go and switch to low. Now I can crank the power amp. So you can see this master now is on 7, which is pretty high. If I go switch the amp off and press and hold the first button while switching it on, I should be in the low power mode. Yeah, and I can feel it. Ooh, there is something missing because it's already a bit muddy. So this is my clean channel. Can you listen how compressed it sounds? The reverb is fucking loud because the power amp is compressed. I go all the way up to 10. So this is all power amp saturation. Let me go back for the standard. I think it's simply tighter. It is, yeah, it's a tiny difference, but it's something that you feel more than you hear it probably. Maybe you could hear it, but I think the 100 watt has a bit more control and a bit more punch. The other thing is the low gain mode. That's depending on the channels. Let me see, this is the vintage channel. Let's use without the boost. Let me go back to normal. So as you can see now, I'm on the normal setting on the BluBox, and I'm on a 4 on the master volume, which is kind of stage volume for most people. I sometimes go to 6 and I get yelled at for being too loud, but so this is like where it sounds pretty good to my ears. This is the point where it's in between the clean and starting to sag a little bit, which I like. Okay, now I switch off, press and hold the boost button while switching it on, and I should have a little bit less gain. It's a bit less gain and maybe a little bit warmer. You can actually dial in how much you want to be different with MIDI or with the remote. And it's the same thing here. I can show you how much it changes. So this is like, okay, let's go vintage channel. And let's do, this is kind of low gain mode, and I can program, this is full. And this is about the setting of low gain mode as it is when you recall it. That's about the difference I programmed into the AMP1 by default. That's not so much a thing that you hear like dramatic, like, you know, that's, I don't recognize the amp anymore. That's special. So I try to have a, you know, like the input on a traditional old school Marshall or Fender is the high or the low input. So the high input always has a bit more bite, and the low input, it's a bit warmer. I would call that a bit woodier, and the other one a bit, whatever, muddier when it comes to gain, but it also has this nice and edgy attack. Yeah, that's the thing about the low gain mode and the low power mode. And you can program that into your AMP1 as you like it. So the default is only one setting, but you can have your own. So you can customize your AMP1 to a 7-watt amp on low gain setting. Oh, why don't you make an amp that has only 50 watts? Well, it's already there. Just hit that button and it's a 50-watt amp. Why don't you make a 7-watt amp? Well, get a remote one from your friend in the store or buy one and program it into your AMP1. Then you have a 7-watt AMP1. Nothing else needed. It will memorize it forever. It's there. Okay, next question. Andrew, can you explain multi-stage clipping and its benefits for overdrive tones? Yes. And that's a good question to go back to Hendrix, because Hendrix already did it. Because he used a loud Marshall for his lead tones, and he had a fuzz phase. So there was a stage, the fuzz that was clipping, and there was an amp that was clipping. Actually, there were a lot of stages in the amp that were clipping. The input stage, because the fuzz was driving it hard, the phase splitter stage, the power amp stage, so several stages. And what happens is the first stage creates overtones. You know, the clean tone has just the overtones from the strings. But when it gets to the saturation point, the tone itself, which is more like a sine wave, when it's unclipped, gets chopped off the head. And then we have these slight edges. And these edges, they are overtones. And these overtones come from the first stage and they will come to the next stage. So the next stage already gets overtones from clipping and overtones from the guitar. And the more stages you kind of combine, the more complex the clipping gets. And maybe you know, some of the richest tones have been created by having pedals in front of driven tube amps. Let me play the Hendrix thing again. I will go in here, swap to here. Here's my reverb. Okay, let me explain the whole setup. I start with the wah-wah. I have one here on the floor. This was the thing that I was playing at the beginning. So I do have a flashback echo here, which is you can hear the blub echo because I like echoes. And this is just one with my own TonePrint. TC Electronics have that technology where you can load in your own TonePrint. You know what, guys? I put this pedal board now on the table so you can see it better. I hope I will not kill my whole setup here. Okay, get rid of this amp, put it here, switch it off. We don't need any pedals here. We have the BluBox. Ah, somebody, can you hold it? Okay, pedal board here. Yeah. Okay, let me just put it here. And by the way, we use these books, the Fender reference, to stabilize the board. A book that a friend of mine did, and I was writing some information in that book. But Fender forbid to sell the book. So I have some here, and I'm using it now to make the pedal board stable on a nano cap. And here we go. So, where's the guitar? Here's the guitar. So I hope we are back on the track. I make it even better. So this is the real deal wah on the... Hey, come on, baby. So this is a real, I don't know the year, 1967, blah, 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 Vox VA with the real deal Farnell, what, no, Farnell is the electronic supplier from today. Farnell was the Italian manufacturer of the coil that's been used in this pedal. And you know what's so special about that pedal is, listen to the high end. It's so nice and shimmery. It's a bit noisy, but it is so nice and shimmery. The high end is not too harsh. It screams, but it has this silver high end, soft treble. I love it. And that's the beauty of the vintage wah-wah pedals that everyone tries to copy, but they get somewhere, but never 100%. Okay, that's the pedal here. Now we're talking overdrive. I'm using the AMP1 in the vintage channel, just like a cranked Marshall with a little boost, and that's my tone. And it's actually on the low gain mode. So I have, the tone a bit warmer than usually with my standard boards. So that's my setting of the amp. And now I bring in the fuzz phase. Okay, check out, what was the question about cascading gain stages? So without the boost. Can you hear how it starts to speak? The sound is like and when I use the boost, it's like That's the overtones, okay? Without the boost, I play exactly the same thing. And now comes the boost. So I kind of get overtones like an octave higher, and that already goes into the next stage. Using an extra stage here, the fuzz phase. So that's the fuzz phase. Of course it's muddy, but it has a beauty. When I turn down the volume, it's even more brighter and shiny. Off. On. And then when I crank the volume here, That's the fuzz phase in front of the AMP1, and that's already kind of the beauty of gain stacking. There's a super Hendrixy effect which is called the octave fuzz or whatever, and that's this one here. If you don't know what to do with it, it sounds kaputt. It's simply a... To get these flute-like tones, I'm using the neck pickup here, and I roll back the treble. So this is treble on full. There's a lot of attack noise, but without treble, don't play a tritone, because this is the end of it. It's like... So for my personal preference, I'm the echo guy. Hendrix didn't do that. I have an analog delay here, especially when I do the flute kind of thing. It's a nice thing. So what was this? This was using the fuzz phase and the Uni Vibe. Okay, that's... I think that's also a magic combination. Okay. What is the Uni Vibe, which is the original device he was using? It's kind of a phaser, 4-stage. I read phaser. It's pretty expensive. I played some old ones, and what I like about the real old ones is they have the rumble low end. This one. Yeah. On my other pedal board, I have another phaser. Where is it? Somewhere. Where is it? It's here. A small stone. That's the perfect phaser for Fender Rhodes and a universal device. It doesn't have the same amount of rumble. This has more a mid-rangey thing, which I use on my other pedal board, even if I play Hendrix. But a Vibe has this kind of sound, and they called it Chorus, and it was designed to emulate a Leslie speaker cabinet, but in the end it became something else, which is good because it became a beauty of its own. Getting lost in harmonies, whatever. Okay, Sweet Angel. That's the Uni Vibe, or in my case, the Tube Vibe. Little comment, the original device wasn't tube, it was transistor. But I like that one. And I have transistor ones that I like, and that's a tube one, and I put it on that expensive pedal board, and I like it. And hey guys, of course Hendrix combined the whole thing. Sometimes he played amps clean. Live he had like his Marshall stacks and cranked them all, which was the sound now. The other way to go is simply having a nice yeah, that's another great thing. I could teach you a lot of the Hendrix stuff. You know what? I saved this for another episode. Otherwise, nobody can sleep here in Germany anymore because Hendrix can go forever. If you want to know more about pedals like vibes, like fuzzes, like octave, I have a YouTube channel called Pedalicious and Pedalicious, and in that kind of channel, on that channel, I can have, or I demonstrate all kinds of different pedals from different manufacturers, and make kind of a sound check, and you can see what you can do it, and maybe you can get a feel for it and you find a pedal that you like and want to try out, because there are so many pedals on the market today, almost endless. And I try to show pedals that you probably don't have, sometimes pedals that you know, and sometimes pedals that people talk about, but you don't get at every store. So just as information what's on the pedals. And by the way, this channel here, we need subscribers. We just started the whole channel. We have 4 issues out by now. We try to do it weekly. Hopefully we can do that. And if you hit the notification bell button, whatever, subscribe to the channel so we know that we don't do it for nobody, we do it for you. And the more you there is, the more fun it's for us. Cool. What about, do we have more questions? Oh my God. Jusuyu Pintago, oh my no. Hello Thomas, a German. Okay, BluBox und NanoCap, die BluBox geht in die PA. Sollte ich dann die Nano lieber an die BluBox anschließen oder den 8-Ausgang des AMP1s? Okay, he's asking, he's got the BluBox and he's got the NanoCap. And where to connect the cabinet? The official way is speaker out on the amp goes into speaker level input on the BluBox, and speaker level through goes to the NanoCap. So you would have the NanoCap, your real guitar speaker, connected to this socket. Because I told you before, in this socket there is a switch, and when there is a plug in the switch, the BluBox will automatically compensate the impedance curve of the speaker. So use that output for the NanoCap. The other thing you could do is use it on the guitar amp, but then have a blind jack in here that activates the switch. That's the another option. But keep it simple, use the speaker on the through and you're good. Okay, 8 or 16 ohms, well, that depends on the impedance of your speaker. Because the BluBox has only a through, so the amp sees the original speaker. And if your speaker has 8 ohms, like our NanoCap, you plug it into the 8 ohms. If you're using an old vintage Marshall cabinet with 16 ohms, you should use the 16 ohm output of, or the outlet of the AMP1. Okay, Mohan M. Servus aus England. Oh, another German? No. Somebody that knows German but lives in the UK. He speaks, okay, cool. Servus is very German. Thomas, I bought the Mercury Edition when it first came out. Have the expert features changed since for this? No. If yes, what are the differences? So the question is, when we brought out the Mercury Edition, we introduced some special features because the amp can do more. And at the beginning we thought it can so much more that you might get confused. And we kind of were first hiding it on our website, which is bluguitar.com/ME for Mercury Edition minus, or what's that called, hyphen, expert. And these features are the same for all the Mercury amps and slightly different for the Iridium. So when you go to the website, you can see a silver amp and you follow these instructions to get, or you go to the black amp for the Iridium, because the Iridium has one function more and slightly different. But you're good, you have a Mercury, you got the features. Next question, would you ever consider getting into the world of software, plugins, amp simulation? To be honest, I've done it. I spent 5 years doing the Xentera, all modeling digitally amp. I prefer to do the analog sound. And not saying that digital stuff is no good, but I think it's my competence or my passion should go towards that direction, analog first, and then, you know, on the X we will have a few effects, and there's a lot of digital stuff we can also do, but sheer software is not my cup of tea. I'm the analog freak. There are probably better people for that. Jan Sanners, how to get the first AMP1 a little tighter? Ah, okay, good question. So what is the difference between the AMP1 that wasn't called the Mercury Edition? Some people call it now the Silver Edition. Some people call it the original. We do have fans for it, and especially people that play the gain a bit lower. Since I explained in some previous episodes that there's a treble bleed. So when you reduce the gain, you increase the high end automatically. So if you go to 5, you get extra high end, extra bite, less gain. And then since you have less gain, it's not as muddy. And it doesn't need to be tightened up. But people that have more gain tend to go and say, oh, okay, I mean, you know, this guy is influenced by Jimi Hendrix. He liked the muddy tones like Jimi Hendrix did. How can I get it tighter? A very simple answer is use a pedal that's reducing. Where is it? Somewhere we had a tube screamer. Doesn't matter. You know how a tube screamer looks like. Get a pedal that kind of rolls off a little bass, like a tube screamer, that focus the amp more towards the mids. For the metal guys, there is the Horizon Drive, which is kind of a super elaborated pre-EQ pedal with, I think it's 4 or 5 different stages of bass reduction. So with that pedal you can get almost to real metal with the first amp edition. You can use something like a tube screamer or some device that like a clone. Clone also cuts a little low end. You can have an EQ. You know, there's like 7-band EQs that do a pretty good job in front of the amp. That's the way to do it, or get you know, a range master or similar kind of boosters that have the opportunity to roll off some bass. That's the way how to get the first edition or any amp tighter. So that's a recipe for all the amps on the planet, even for our amps, if needed. Ben Granfelt, hello. VA before or after FATS? My opinion. Ben, hi from Finland. I did it before the FAS, but you need to have a special pedal. This is original and this is kind of original. This is original design, of course. It's not the original fast phase, which was way bigger. I show you what happened with the wah when there is not this buffer transistor, which is in this pedal. Some Japanese freaks made that the awakening buffer. And I show you simply what happens. So get rid of the vibe. I'm back on, this is like my all original sound. So, if I use the wah like it is, it's nice. Now I engage the fuzz, and now not much happening besides noise. And now I bring in the awakening buffer. So that's the way I do it. If you don't have it, do it the other way around. And well, what happens if you have the fuzz first and the wah second? All the overtones from the wah get filtered. All the overtones from the fuzz get filtered by the wah, and the wah cuts off a lot of bass. So the effect of the wah is more audible. It's more intense. But the sounds become so thin because, you know, all this, the big tone from the fuzz phase is then cut into a small bandwidth filter that has only mids and highs and no real bass. So I prefer it that way. My question, okay. Hey Ben, we are on the same album somewhere. I just make a little, no, can you give me, in the back there is something. Use the CD, yeah. This CD is brand new. It's called the GoMusic CD. It's from a German project that combines, it's like a jam band where all international artists play like 10 gigs in a row. And this is the new CD. I haven't even heard it. And I'm on there and Ben is on here. So we both are on this CD. Yeah, I will put it in my CD player afterwards or tomorrow. And you can get my CDs in my shop, but this GoMusic CD you should get at Martin Engelien. It's a German bass player that organizes this kind of jam tours. And I had big fun doing that because you can meet other people like Ben Granfelt that you probably know for, you know, from trade shows or from the internet or from their solo albums. And then suddenly you have the opportunity to tour with these guys. So, you know, me and Ben, we spent 10 days together and play together, which is big fun. Killer. So, next, the Hollywood actress, wow, I wonder who she is, or he is. I was wondering, do you have any particular capacitor wired in your Strat? Yes, capacitors, oh my God. We had the episode about the Strat and what kind of esoteric modifications we can do to Stratocasters. And I do have a treble bleed capacitor, and what I use is a silver mica capacitor for that. For the neck pickup, I use what is this, oil capacitors, the very old ones, which is from the Strats from the 50s, and then I have ceramic capacitors for the middle pickup. Why? Because they sound different, and well, I'm simply trying stuff out, and what I like best stays there where it is. That's my try and error kind of method. Yes, so I have particular capacitors wired in my Strat, only for that reason, for the tone and the treble bleed on the master volume. Okay, last question here. What kind of guitar fret size are you using, and the neck, is it maple, Indian rosewood fret, what radius? Well, this is the original Fender 1961 Strat that I own since I am, I was 17. And it's Indian rosewood, I guess. Never ask me about woods in detail. I know this is alder body, maple neck, and the rosewood fretboard. So this guitar used to be a vintage radius all the way through, but it has been refretted so many times that what I've done myself is sending off the middle in the higher range, so I can bend the string without getting the note stuck. And so I would call this a compound radius, but in the frets. So that's what this guitar is like. And the neck itself got narrow just from refretting. Maybe we can show with this camera here. This is original width. And then if you look, it kind of gets shrinks here and then kind of goes back to normal. But you know, every time you do a new fret job, you have to cut the edges. And then when the edges get rounder, you lose a little bit. It's a tiny inch or whatever. And only in my playing time, I don't know, but it's been refretted like 10 times. And the other thing I can tell you about this neck here is, when I bought the guitar, it was not only cleaner, but I could see the dots. And now it's like they all disappear. Because when I'm on stage, I sweat like a pig. And then I do tons of bending. And the fingers kind of rub the wood as well. And the sweat kind of do this rubbing and sweating is kind of doing a scalloping job to the wood. And now I use 6105 Dunlop frets on the guitar. I tried the pure steel as they last longer, but I went back for my preference, and you can already see there are some places where it should have some file treatment or sandpaper treatment, but you know what, as long as it works, don't touch it. I hope it makes the guitar last longer and not getting a new fret job in too soon. I'm very practical when it comes to this thing. But fret size is 6105 and the radius should be, what is it, 7¼ to like 10 up there. So compound, that's the way I like my necks, just to make a Strat better playable, and especially for the bending. And then with the round edges, I have to say I like that too, because I have tiny hands and they feel very comfortable on this kind of neck. It should have some meat here, not too skinny, but nice round fat neck here. And yeah, that's my style. Okie doke, guys. I think I was talking forever. Let's do this. Somebody can win this. Oh, I have to think of a question. Fuck. If we get the right answer. Okay. I'm not prepared at all. What was the top E string gauge that Jimi Hendrix used on his Stratocaster? I hope I'm right. Woo! And then you have to send us in the comments. I will play, and when I stop playing, we will draw a winner. And then there will be another round with my DVD, How to Play Hendrix. The explanations on this one are in German. So, of course, there's a lot of music and there's backing tracks and stuff. But the book that comes with it and is in German. So probably we draw somebody that understands that, or you find it super funny. We will see. Okay, anyway, so I will make some noise. So, we do have, oh yeah, we have right answers here. So who was first? Top line, give me the first that says 8. 8 is correct, is what I was thinking of. The first one, is it Thomas Holl? Who was the first answer? No, this is wrong. The first, Francis Horowitz said 12, Victor, the guitar nerd, said 10, Owen Angels. David Roberts is the first 8 I can see. At least I heard so. Okay, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I heard that Jimi Hendrix was playing super skinny strings. And that's maybe the reason why his guitar went out of tune a lot and why he could do those beautiful bends. I mean, if you go... Okay, so that was the first part, and this was for the DVD, correct? Yeah, I think so. So next thing is for the tutorial DVD with 131 Minuten Spieldauer, Notenheft mit 32 Seiten, 4 live eingespielte Play-alongs. I've done this a couple of years back. And yeah, talking about Jimi Hendrix, there's many things, maybe we should revisit the whole thing. But Watchtower is the funny thing how it starts. Most people don't know how to count it in because it's 1, 2, 3, da, 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 da. And for me it was way too complicated. So when Blug plays Hendrix, my own project, I thought, I love Jimi Hendrix music because it's so inspirational. And I like the energy, I like the lyrics. This guy has written lyrics beyond anything I heard from other people. I mean, Access Bold as Love is unbelievable. So, but I thought when I do my versions of Hendrix music, I'm a child of the 80s. I experienced different beats. So for beats, I have more modern beats. And I choose my version of Watchtower, which is actually a cover of a Bob Dylan song. The composer of All Along the Watchtower was Bob Dylan, and Jimi Hendrix just did his cover version of it. And I do a cover version of the cover version inspired by Nirvana. So my version is like this. Okay, what was the question? What's... At what age Jimi Hendrix died? So, okay, this was an easy one. I think, let's see, just for the fun of it. I want to see if everybody is right. I mean, he died at age 27. He was one of the most famous of that club. Yeah. So okay, 14? Oh no, 14, he does it way too young. Or is this still the strings? Mr. Demeter is the winner, because that's the first one who could type in 27 or had the fastest internet. So it showed up here. Yeah, but Gerhard Loos, Erik Bosma, Mario Stracuzzi, hello, 27, so you're all right. And here's maybe the big thing about Jimi Hendrix. Imagine how much music, what great invention he brought to the world in his life. I mean, the guy did only have like a couple of years making albums, like 66 I think was the first one, and then he already died in 70. So it's like 4 years and he changed the whole world of the electric guitar. Unbelievable, 27. But you know, the guys dying at 27, they are maybe very sensitive people, and most of them did have drug problems, as we all know. And there is, you know, if you think about a body of somebody that is dying at 27, I think that's heavy drugs. It's not only, oh, slight accident. We don't know about Jimi Hendrix. I mean, the rumors go he choked on his vomit drinking red wine. So if you drink red wine, don't drink a bottle, just have a glass. And that's healthy. That helps every grandma, and that helps you. So if you take drugs, be professional about it, like Keith Richards, you know? And then it's not a problem. But I guess most of the audience today we all survived 27, so we know where our limits are, and we are professional when we deal with stuff that is not legal sometimes. Anyway, this was a big fun experience of what you can do with the AMP1 connected to Jimi Hendrix and other stuff, and I find it so interesting to dig into the historic of the electric guitar. It's unbelievable. I can read stuff from Eric Clapton and how he influenced him and Hendrix, and they all meet. I love all these biographies and books, and yeah, it's great to when I meet people that know or knew those, you know, idols like Jimi Hendrix or Ritchie Blackmore. I always have questions, and I still find it very fascinating these times. Sometimes I wish I was a teenager in the 50s and a rock star in the 60s. But I became something different. We all have to do our thing, and yeah, trying to the best out of it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. We will see you again next week, and have a good one. Stay safe. Maybe I get a new haircut one day. Cheers. Bye.